concerned about. I pointed out that taking away reproductive freedoms, banning books, raising the price of insulin, trying to hurt labor unions, nobody's asking for that weird crap. No one's asking for it.
Someone who suggests we should terminate the Constitution of the United States should never again stand behind the seal of President of the United States.
Now, these rallies are, those are not the highlights. The rallies are sustained energy, sustained enthusiasm, sustained punchlines and applause. And the vice president and her running mate's gravitational pull, unsurprisingly, is now extending well beyond what Democrats typically think of as their winning coalitions, all the way out deep into Republican territory. Many of those Republicans deeply disaffected by the MAGA movement. We have called them Never Trump Republicans, people who recognize the existential threat posed by the disgraced ex-president, and those small few who understand the concept of publicly putting country over party. These Republicans out in the country have spent nearly a decade now out on the margins, supporting Biden in 2020, but otherwise biding their time. Well, now they seem to have found an unlikely new champion, a disciple of Barack Obama, a vice president to Joe Biden, a standard bearer for their one-time rival party. Former Georgia Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan, a lifelong Republican, has already endorsed Vice President Harris. And David French added his voice. He's a leading voice of conservatism. He submitted this opinion article to the New York Times. Quote, "The only real hope for restoring a conservatism that values integrity, demonstrates real compassion, and defends our foundational constitutional principles is not to try to make the best of Trump, a man who values only himself. If he wins again, it will validate his cruelty and his ideological transformation of the Republican Party. If Harris wins, the West will still stand against Vladimir Putin, and conservative Americans will have a chance to build something decent from the ruins of a party that was once a force for genuine good in American life." And then there's the Republican mayor of Mesa, Arizona, a lifelong Republican. Listen to what he said at Kamala Harris's rally on Friday night.
The Republican Party has been taken over by extremists that are committed to forcing people in the center of the political spectrum out of the party. So I have something to say to those of us who are in the political middle. You don't owe a damn thing to that political party.
You don't owe a damn thing to that political party. The crowd went wild. You could practically reach out and feel the crackling energy infused by Vice President Harris and Governor Wallace just in the last 72 hours at these huge rallies in city after city. The Harris-Wallace ticket is bringing that roaring approval from the crowds that swell to 15,000 people, with people not getting in, waiting outside, so full of life and energy and purpose that Donald Trump, after first attacking it, now literally refuses to believe what he sees with his own eyes. The man whose first act as America's president was going to the CIA and lying about crowd size did it again this weekend when he falsely suggested images of jam-packed Harris rallies of the size of her crowds were AI generated. Trump, who made news today for simply scheduling a rally in the midst of a Where's Waldo period of his 2024 campaign, is now left to join some of the rest of us, sitting back and seeing just how far and how high the Harris-Wallace ticket will soar. Joining our coverage, that's where we start today. Joining our coverage are some of our most favorite experts and friends. Distinguished political scholar and professor at Princeton University, Eddie Glaude is back. Also joining us, Democratic pollster and president of Brilliant Corners Research, Cornell Belcher is here. And former senator and co-host of MSNBC's How to Win 2024 podcast, Claire McCaskill is here. Cornell, stipulating that Vice President Kamala Harris describes herself as the underdog in this race. You did that in that big, huge rally in Philadelphia. And that the country is pretty closely divided in terms of how they self-identify. There is no denying what is before our eyes and what we can hear with our ears at these events, and that is that the Harris team has all the momentum. The Harris campaign has changed the structure of the race, and there will likely be, and I want to hear your opinion, but I imagine sort of a political dogfight for battles of momentum. But in terms of structural changes, it doesn't feel like there are a ton of opportunities to reshape the race. What do you think about where the race stands today?
No, I actually think there's a ton of opportunity to reshape the race. And look, as someone who worked on, 08 and 12 Obama campaigns, where I think we expanded the electorate and certainly expanded the political map in a profound way, I think the Harris coalition has an ability to even be larger and grow that. I mean, look, they're already expanding their paid media and their time and attention into more battleground states. And I think that's the key thing here is, they're not going to be sitting around on election night waiting for the results of one state to come in, which was something David Plouffe famously said of us in 08. They're expanding the map. So they're bringing more states into battle. And look, the Republican thing is interesting. In 2020, Donald Trump garnered 94% of the Republican vote, and so you see that is there opportunity now to garner more of that Republican vote? I don't know, but I certainly think that Republicans, like you've talked about here, coming out prominently, speaking against Donald Trump in a way that we've never seen Republicans come out and talk against their nominee, opens up a whole nother door, an opportunity here for Democrats to make even more inroads. And look, and if you look at the way Democrats are winning college-educated white voters, particularly college-educated white women. Look, in 2012, we were not winning college-educated white voters like this. So I think the playing field and the coalition opportunities now are actually larger than we saw in 2012. So I think that the Democratic coalition, or at least the Democratic coalition, little d, and those who believe in democracy, I think can grow, Nicolle, in a way we haven't seen before.
Yeah, I forget who said it first, but to the point you're making, I'm not sure that polls capture the movement of the pro-democracy movement, because I've kept a close eye on Republicans because there were like 4 of us in 2015, and the rest were sort of in witness protection. But this David French piece is so interesting because it's not just, I'm disgusted with Trump, we should get rid of him. It's an intellectual argument for the heart and soul of pro-life evangelical conservatism. Let me read a little bit more to you on this point about reshaping the race, sort of beyond which states fall into battlegrounds and you add a trip to. I think there's an opportunity to have almost like the way there were Reagan Democrats for a generation, and people remembered, their parents sort of switching parties because it was so seismic. I think there's an opportunity to have the inverse of that, and sort of like a Harris conservatives for this reason that I'm going to read you that David French sort of puts his finger on. He writes this, quote, "While there are voters who are experiencing a degree of Trump nostalgia, remembering American life pre-COVID as a time of full employment and low inflation, there's a different and darker story to tell about Trump's first term. Our social fabric frayed. It's not just that abortions increased, the murder rate skyrocketed, drug overdose deaths hit new highs, marriage rates fell, birth rates continued their long decline. Americans ended his term more divided than when it began. I'm often asked by Trump voters if I'm still conservative, and I respond that I can't vote for Trump precisely because I am conservative. I loathe sex abuse, pornography, and adultery. Trump has brought those vices into the mainstream of the Republican Party. I want to cultivate a culture that values human life from conception through natural death. Yet America became more brutal and violent during Trump's term. I want to defend liberal democracy from authoritarian aggression. Yet Trump would abandon our allies and risk our most precious alliances." You never, ever, 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 ever hear a prominent conservative articulate that Trump brought the specific vices of adultery and sex abuse into the mainstream, but that is exactly what he did. And I talked to you and Sarah Longwell now for months about permission structures. This feels like a new one.
It does, right? Because it's laying out the very conservative case against Donald Trump. And look, we've had this conversation on your show before. It's like none of us think Donald Trump is actually a true conservative. And so you have true conservatives stepping up and giving them a permission structure. And look, let's lean in and also give some kudos to Liz Cheney, who I think started this. Right. And sort of leaned into this. And I think she began giving them permission structure, and that tack on it, I think, is coming full fruition now.
Eddie Glaude, I love the images that we can see and believe with our own eyes, and the sounds that we can hear, and the roar of the crowd. And if it were up to me, I would air every one of these rallies from before they begin, and you hear all the, sort of music and the DJs, till the end, when you see people leaving with tears in their eyes who say they've never gone to a rally before, because it's not about one candidate's political event. I understand the arguments against airing these. It's about knowing what you're witnessing. And what we're witnessing, and I say this having worked on the campaign that went up against President Obama, is a political phenomenon. And the Trump voters were a political phenomenon, and we covered them as such. But this Harris-Walz ticket is a legitimate political phenomenon.
I think you're absolutely right, and it's a convergence of a number of different factors, right? There's the reality of just generalized exhaustion, the possibility of another Trump presidency or term, had people on the ropes in so many ways. And of course, the ascendance of Harris and Walz and as a running mate, right, infused a different kind of energy into the political process. But I think the idea that politics can be joyous is a new feeling. But more importantly, or in addition to that, Nicolle, that politics can actually give us some indication about our future. It's really important. We've been so backward-looking, so navel-gazing in our politics, so wrapped up in our grievances and hatreds, that the idea that we can actually engage in political debate about what the future will look like, is something that is exhilarating for a lot of folks. So this is, in fact, a phenomenon, and it's different in a lot of ways because it's a convergence of a number of different factors that have described the last 8 years or so.
Yeah, I mean, Claire, what do you think is fueling this? I mean, I've read all of the interviews that Speaker Pelosi is doing, and I think even she, who was very publicly out there, sort of saying what she saw after the debate between President Joe Biden and Donald Trump, underestimated what Kamala Harris would do when and if Joe Biden endorsed her. I mean, this is just. It's a political phenomenon. It's the phenomenon of a woman being underestimated, a number two, and I think number twos are often underestimated, but a very loyal number two to Joe Biden. And her political acumen, I know it's something that you know because you know her and you're friends with her and you saw her operate very skillfully on the Senate Judiciary Committee. But there has to be a little bit of, mea culpa, or people sort of pleasantly surprised with how much better she is than anyone expected.
Yeah, I think it's a good reminder that sometimes what we see is so superficial. And this goes for a whole lot of people in elective office. The way people consume media now, the way people get information now, so much of it is, like as thick as a Tupperware container. It's not really who these people are. And what happened is Kamala Harris had a bad presidential campaign, which rolled into her becoming vice president. And there was tisk-tisks about that among the chattering class, which rolled into her having a little bit of a shaky start as vice president. And what was forgotten is the battles she had fought and won thus far in her life. The obstacles she had overcome, her skill, her raw intelligence, an incredible work ethic. So she is benefiting from being wildly underestimated by people that are Democrats, not by Republicans, not by MAGA people, but by the Democratic Party. I kept saying to people over and over again, they said, oh, but we can't have Kamala Harris. I kept saying, why not? Why can't we have Kamala Harris? Kamala Harris is terrific, and she's showing that. And she also showed it with who she picked for number 2. Yeah. There was a lot of, she shouldn't have done that. She shouldn't have done that. And now people are seeing what she saw. Someone is so authentic, it takes your breath away. Someone who is so relatable and so real to most Americans. He's not a rich guy. He's never been, in a hedge fund. He's never been a venture capitalist. He has, never had more than one mortgage in his life. He is very, as you see him, a teacher, a coach, somebody who is drawn to public service for all the right reasons. So I think it's just terrific. I love it that she only has a short sprint instead of a marathon. And I love it that she was so underestimated. And I love it the most that it's driving. You talk about karma for Donald Trump to be taken out by this woman. Oh, my God, it's just too good to be true.
It's so good. Claire, quickly, let me show you what you're talking about. Governor Walz is a lot of things. He's also the very best at sticking sort of something right under Trump's skin. Let me show you his riff on crowd sizes.
Hello, Arizona. Wow. Hey. Wow. Well, you might have seen a few people showed up in Philadelphia the other night. And then 10,000 plus walked into a field in western Wisconsin. And then on Wednesday, the largest crowd of the campaign showed up in Detroit, Michigan. But Arizona just couldn't leave it alone, could you? Wow. It's not as if anybody cares about crowd sizes or anything. So.
Your memory is an amazing thing, but sometimes it can start to slow down. But did you know Prevagen can help keep your memory sharp? The secret is the powerful ingredient apoaquarin, originally discovered in jellyfish and found only in Prevagen. In a clinical study, Prevagen was shown to improve memory in subgroups of individuals who are cognitively normal or mildly impaired. Stay sharp and improve your memory with Prevagen. Prevagen, in stores everywhere without a prescription.
Someone needs to customize and save hundreds with Liberty Mutual. Wait, there's an elevator?
Only pay for what you need.
Liberty, 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 liberty.
On Chewy, save 35% off your first order. With selection for any pet, with any diet, at prices you'll love. Delivered fast, right to your door. For low prices and fast shipping, for life with pets. There's Chewy with everything.
Work. Play. Blink. Relief. Work. Play. Blink. Relief.
The only 3-in-1 extended relief formula for dry eyes.
Blink.
The Keepsake Frames app makes it ridiculously easy to frame your favorite photos. Just choose a photo that you love, select the perfect frame, and you'll have your framed print delivered and ready to hang. Download the free Keepsake Frames app and start framing today.
Most people call leaf filter when their gutters are clogged and they notice one of the many issues that can bring. Well, sometimes it's the smell of mildew when water has seeped into the interior walls, or maybe they've spotted mold in the attic. But most often, it's the more obvious signs of damage, like rotten soffit, fascia, or water pooling near their foundation. You can get ahead of costly damage by protecting your home's gutters today. We're in your neighborhood and ready to help.
Schedule your free gutter inspection today. Call 833-LEAF-FILTER or visit leaffilter.com.
Why do couples choose a Sleep Number smart bed?
Can it keep me warm when I'm cold?
Wait, no, I'm always hot.
Sleep Number does that. During our biggest sale of the year, save 50% on the Sleep Number limited edition smart bed and free delivery when you add any base.
I was seeing this bra all over my Instagram feed.
This is the most comfortable bra I've ever put on in my life. So not only is it super supportive, lifting and smoothing, but you have all that without an underwire and without a ton of padding. If you're looking at this and it's available, I promise you won't regret it.
Free returns on all orders.
Our biggest challenge? Uncertainty. Hidden fees, surcharges, who knows what to expect.
Turn shipping to your advantage.
Keep it simple with clear upfront pricing.
With USPS Ground Advantage.
New projects means new project managers. You need to hire.
I need Indeed.
Indeed you do. When you sponsor a job, you immediately get your short list of quality candidates whose resumes on Indeed match your job criteria. Visit Indeed.com/hire and get started today.
Vice President Kamala Harris is riding a wave of momentum.
It's challenging to understand how he is supposed to appeal to a general election electorate.
There are people that want what Donald Trump and J.D. Vance are selling.
Don't miss the weekend, Saturday and Sunday mornings at 8
on MSNBC.
Download the MSNBC app now at msnbc.com/app.
We're all back. Eddie, Cornell, and Claire. Cornell, I want to show you how Vice President Harris is working on keeping herself on offense on the issue of immigration. Let me show you this.
But Donald Trump does not want to fix this problem. Be clear about that. He has no interest or desire to actually fix the problem. He talks a big game about border security, but he does not walk the walk. Earlier this year, everybody here knows, earlier this year we had a chance to pass the toughest bipartisan border security bill in decades. But Donald Trump tanked the deal. Because he thought by doing that it would help him win an election. But when I am president, I will sign the bill.
Cornell, there's this real relief that the facts are getting out on this issue. I mean, Donald Trump, when people say Donald Trump has benefited over people's feelings about immigration, Donald Trump has benefited from Donald Trump's lies about immigration. Because when Donald Trump was in charge of immigration for 4 years, he spent more time working on the sadistic points on the top of his black painted wall that were meant to impale and hurt people trying to come to this country. And I wonder, this is obviously something she has to sustain. This is a real voter issue. But she seems to be trying to break down the lies that have been told by Donald Trump for 9 years now.
Well, I think there's a couple of things. One is, I would go even further on the border issue, is that the real issue and fear behind the border is the changing face of America. And so a lot of this fear that's being generated around the border, it is a proxy for a conversation about the browning of America and making brown people and others the boogeyman. But I'll let the professor speak more on that because he's more eloquent on it than I am. But that said, I think it is a real smart, because look, this is an issue around the border that Republicans have had a key issue advantage on for over a decade. And the voters most concerned about the border and border security are, in fact, voters who are, in fact, really Republican. You do have moderate voters in the middle who are anxious about the border and certainly anxious about security. But what this does is it gives Democrats opportunity to go on the offense and say that they are playing politics with it and pivot, right? So it is I'm going to do something about the border. We actually had a bill about the border that did all the things that we wanted to do, but you all played politics on it. So I think it's a great opportunity to take what I think is a complete boggle by the Republicans on this issue and how they're going to lose. They're losing ground with this issue in the middle parts of America because they're playing politics with it. I think it's a great hit and then pivot.
Yeah, I mean, Eddie, you've been in Vogue, so I'll turn it over to you. I mean, the only thing I would add is that this bipartisan bill, it was bipartisan because President Joe Biden helmed the negotiations, but the stuff in it was stuff that Republicans have wanted to get done since 2004. I mean, it was a lot of Republican stuff.
Yeah, and I want to underline what Cornell just said, so I don't need to say it again about the background politics to the immigration debate. But I think you're absolutely right, and here's where I would urge Vice President Harris to recalibrate her language here, right? So on the one hand, she's right. Donald Trump tanked the immigration bill. But she also has her base. She doesn't want to alienate her base, because some folks in her base were a little bit squeamish about that bill, because it was, in fact, the toughest immigration bill that in decades, right? So the idea here is to emphasize we're interested in governing. And what does that mean? What does that entail? It's going to entail some compromises, some things that we might not agree with, but we have to work together in order to address issues that confront everyday ordinary folk. The other side is just interested in power. And that was very clear, because even when they got what they wanted, they tanked it because that's all they want is power. So I think it's important, as she engages in this kind of triangulation around policy, that she also understands that she can't take for granted, right, those people who are really, really excited about her candidacy. Does that make sense, or do I sound like an abstract professor right here? I don't know.
No. I mean, look, and I think this is some of her skill that Claire is talking about. People underestimate her ability to sort of manage and stay on the right side of a policy nuance without abdicating the political upper hand. And I think sort of my observation, Eddie, is that so far, and 88 days is an eternity in politics, she seems to be threading that needle. What do you think?
Exactly. I think so. I think this is really, really important. You know, folks are going to green screen her, just like they did Obama in 2008. You know, they're going to make him or her, they made him, and they're going to make her what they want her desperately to be. And I think as long as she doesn't disrupt that, she'll be good, just like Obama was good in 2008.
Claire, I want to come to you, because I think that what she's done on immigration, get herself on offense on a perceived political liability, is part of what makes everybody exhale, right? It's part of the relief. It was a pivot that Joe Biden, I think, pioneered in the State of the Union address, when the Republican senator he'd worked with mouthed, "You're right, that's true." But to see Vice President Harris do it in a political arena and have the crowd roaring for what you know, I think Eddie's point is this is a complicated piece of legislation. Her point is we were for solving the problem and Trump killed it. It is a very sort of specific skill that she's displaying here in these rallies on the issue of immigration.
Well, there's a rule in politics, if you're on defense, you're losing. And she knows that rule, and she's not on defense. She's not even letting herself get on defense when the other side is basically, I mean, this split screen is phenomenal. On one side, you have lying and name-calling and dark stuff. Our country is in ruins. Our country is a hellhole. Our country sucks. Isn't everything terrible in our country? Aren't we awful? We are so awful. And by the way, let me think of all the good names I can call the other people. And then the other side is smiles and laughter. And I mean, you see Tim Walz's exuberance. It just spills out of him. You know, like a container cannot hold the exuberance that you feel on the other side. People in America are relieved that someone has the language of optimism, opportunity, aspiration, problem solving. And, you know, we now know, you know, whatever is real is not real if it's not good for Donald Trump. And the more he digs this hole, the more he does this bonkers BS that the crowds are AI. I mean, it's just great. I mean, what do these business people think that have endorsed this guy? I mean, what should the Pentagon be doing with the fact that we're buying satellite from Elon Musk? I mean, really? Yeah. I mean, it's just crazy to me that there are educated people that don't see how desperate and sick Donald Trump really is.
Yeah, Cornell, I'll give you the last word. I mean, I never disagree with my friend Claire, but I mean, darkness is what Trump projected that scared all of us. I feel like what he's I feel like one of the great achievements of the young Harris-Wallace candidacy is they popped that balloon, and now he just looks like a boob.
Well, you know this well, Nicolle, is that the optimists in the American, the one speaking to American exceptionalism and optimism tends to win historically in American politics, whether it be Reagan or Obama or Clinton or even Bush talking about, you know, seizing the moment. I think to a great extent, Trump is a outlier in this, and the scare tactics and the Gotham City, I think, is going to show that that's not where the majority of Americans are. The majority of Americans are with an optimistic view of America and this optimistic ideal that we are extraordinary. No matter what the evidence is, we are extraordinary.
What keeps you up at night, Cornell? I mean, politically.
Drinking. If you look at the efforts, Nicolle, especially in states like Georgia, where they're trying to undermine the vote and they're trying to, I think she's going to win a majority. I do. I think she's going to win the majority, and a lot of the battleground states that we won in the past, I think she'll carry. She'll carry the election day. Whether or not we win the battle after the election, that's what keeps me up late at night.
Yeah, text me. Me too. Cornell Belcher. And the fact that Trump is now calling out these obscure, he's gone from secretaries of state to election board members, is ominous. Cornell Belcher, thank you for starting us off. Eddie and Claire, stick around a little bit longer with us. Up next for us, could Trump's running mate, Ohio's J.D. Vance, actually cost the GOP ticket, the state of Ohio? New reporting suggests the Trump campaign is now watching Ohio very, very, very closely. We'll talk to a political journalist on the ground who first warned us of this next.
It's time to feed the dogs real food, not highly processed pellets. The farmer's dog is fresh food made with whole meat and veggies. It's not dry food. It's not wet food. It's just real food. It's an idea whose time has come.
Here we are driving down the road, and all of a sudden, bang! Oh! Look at that. You know what we can do now? Go to SafeLight.com. They are the experts at replacing and recalibrating windshields. If you get a crack in your windshield, there's only one choice. Safe Light Repair, Safe Light Replace.
Here we go again.
This election is heating up, but Jon Stewart is barely breaking a sweat.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
Comedy Central's The Daily Show on Comedy Central and catch up on Paramount Plus.
What I gotta fix. If I'm not broken,
oh, come on.
What I gotta fix. What I gotta
You break it, we take it. Trade in any phone in any condition, guaranteed at Verizon. And get $800 off the new Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
Or what if we move ballet?
Hold on, let me think.
We just have too many children.
Oh, we have one child, and that's not funny.
It's funny. It's just not constructive.
We need a miracle.
Miracle every Thursday starting at 2:45.
Can I tell you something?
Sure.
I hate this calendar.
Find childcare that fits your schedule at care.com.
You're a small business owner. You don't have time to waste. That's why you go to Biz2 Credit for funding. Our simple application makes it easy to get fast financing. Time for funding? It's time for Biz2 Credit.
Important healthcare announcement. If people tell you your TV is too loud, or if listening in some environments has become too difficult, we are requesting your participation in a special program called the 30-Day Risk-Free Challenge. Hearing Life Hearing Centers are seeking people with hearing difficulties to evaluate a new 100% digital mini hearing aid now being released. All people with hearing aids or hearing difficulties are wanted to take part in this 30-day risk-free challenge evaluating this new high-tech device that sits discreetly behind your ear. This hearing aid is Bluetooth enabled and rechargeable. All hearing assessments are performed at no charge for those taking part in the challenge. Participants will try these hearing aids for 30 days. Now, to take part in this event, you must call. So please, get a pencil and write down the number below. Call us and take the Hearing Life 30-Day Risk-Free Challenge.
Not every decision you make
will be as good as getting a Volkswagen at the Savvy VW Summer Sales Event. 2024 Volkswagen models cost less to maintain than Honda. Get 1.9% APR financing or a $2,500 customer bonus on a new 2024 Tiguan.
New reporting from inside the Trump campaign highlights a Donald Trump who is obviously rattled by a series of events, which due in large part to his inability to adapt or accept, now find him trailing in several key battleground states, a scenario seemingly unimaginable 1 month ago. From that New York Times reporting, Trump has been whipsawed by a 7-week roller coaster ride of events, an attempt on his life, the selection of a running mate, a nominating convention, his opponent's withdrawal from the race, the entry of a galvanizing new rival, a potential Iranian assassination threat against him, and new layers of security that have brought a bunker-like feel to his properties, more than at any time since he was in the White House. And rather than adapt to changing circumstances, Trump has chosen to ignore most campaign advice and lash out, questioning his opponent's ethnicity, delivering incoherent and unhinged press conferences from Mar-a-Lago, and crying about the size of Vice President Kamala Harris's crowds at her rallies. Now his campaign is worried about carrying even in the state where his running mate serves as senator. Quote, 2 private polls conducted in Ohio recently by Republican pollsters show Donald Trump receiving less than 50% against Ms. Harris in the state, according to a person with direct knowledge of the data. Ohio, not Pennsylvania, Michigan, or Wisconsin. They are now worried about Ohio. Joining our conversation, editor for The Plain Dealer and Cleveland.com, Chris Quinn is back with us. Eddie and Claire are here. When I saw this reporting in the New York Times, I thought about your reporting and the things you've shared on this program. I thought of you instantly, and I'm so happy to have you. Do you think they're going to be looking over their shoulder in Ohio, Chris?
I hope so, but I do have to say, this is a rabbit hole that I fear to go down. The last 2 elections, all the polling showed it was close, and we reported it. We participated with Baldwin Wallace University in the polling, and it all turned out to be way off. He won by 8 points both times. We've stopped reporting polls. Baldwin Wallace has stopped doing horse race polls because they're so unreliable. I say all that, though, as somebody who lives in this state and has been here for 28 years. And I do think this is not a state that embraces the hateful invective you get from Donald Trump. You just had a conversation before the break about the exuberance and the joy you're seeing in the Democratic ticket. And after 8 years of all this anger, I do get the sense Ohio is tired of all of that, does want to like their candidates again. They're decent people who live here. So I'm in a small minority of people who watch it in Ohio who think it could happen, but I would never base it on polls because they've been so wrong for so long.
Well, and Chris, I know from working on campaigns that sometimes it's not that you necessarily think you're going to lose the state. It's that you have to go and protect it. And I think my guess after reading this reporting is that the Trump campaign is polling in Ohio to protect it. And that, too, is a political expense. When you have to spend time in Ohio, you can't spend time in Nevada or Pennsylvania. When you have to make a trip to Texas to make sure you don't embarrass yourself, you're not spending your time in the battlegrounds. And I wondered if that part of it. I think the other thing is what we keep talking to you about, and that's J.D. Vance. I mean, he is so unlikable. He is so extreme. You've got Donald Trump saying, "Oh, they're not labeling me weird. They're labeling J.D. Vance weird." He doesn't have a defender anywhere.
We don't see J.D. Vance a lot in Ohio. He's everywhere else but Ohio. You know, it's interesting you say about coming here to guard it, because we've been talking about doing a story saying, for the first time in many decades, in all of our lifetimes, Ohio doesn't matter, that no one will come here. We won't get the advertising. We've been bombarded by all the visits and the advertising for years. And based on what you're saying, we might still see that, which would be interesting. The other factor, I got to tell you, the one that I'm not understanding, Sherrod Brown is in a tight battle to hold his seat in the Senate. Polls are showing he's up, and he should win because people like him. But he's not going to the Democratic National Convention for the first time ever, as far as we can tell. And we don't see him embracing the Democratic ticket. And I would have thought, because of what we're seeing elsewhere, he'd want them to come here and barnstorm the state to try and capitalize on that energy. But he's running almost apart from the Democratic Party, and I don't know how that plays out on Election Day.
Oh, Claire McCaskill wants in on this.
Yeah, Chris, this is Claire McCaskill. Do you think that Sherrod is just trying to make sure the race doesn't get nationalized? I mean, so much of his popularity is based on who he authentically is and has always been. He was a populist before J.D. Vance was even saying it out loud. He had been working for the folks who take a shower after work for as long as he's been walking the planet. So do you think this is just him trying to decouple from the national polarized politics? Because I frankly think it's not going to be shocking to see Kamala Harris and Tim Walz come into Ohio, as far as I'm concerned. And I don't think you're going to have to worry about whether or not Trump shows up. I think they're going to have to show up before this is over.
Yeah, we love when that happens. I think what really is governing Sherrod Brown's moves are what happened with J.D. Vance's election. J.D. Vance really had no business winning that election. He was virtually unknown, and he was running against a pretty well-known candidate in Tim Ryan, a regular kind of guy like Sherrod Brown, and he got beaten. What was it, by 6 points? It wasn't nearly what the rest of the Republicans in the state won by. I think Brown is a little bit afraid of that. But the game has changed. Look, if the Democratic ticket comes to Ohio and barnstorms the place to try and force Donald Trump to spend time here, I do expect Sherrod Brown will be up on the stage with him. He's not going to shun the ticket. It's just there's an energy in the land right now that he could use. But maybe you're right. Maybe he's staying quiet. He didn't think there'd be national campaigning here because we're considered a red state. Why draw that attention?
It is so interesting. I worked on the 2004 Bush campaign, and Kerry and Bush weren't just in the same state or in the same city. Their buses would cross each other. They were traveling the same roads, and there are all sorts of images. I'll dig them up of the Kerry and Bush of 4 buses crossing multiple times on the campaign trail. I have questions for you too, Chris, about the issue of abortion and women in the state of Ohio. No one's going anywhere. Also ahead for us, more on Trump's successfully branded weird running mate and how the Harris campaign is fighting back. That's next.
What's the greatest invention of all time? New hands-free Skechers slip-ins. You just slip in and they're on. It's like they have an invisible built-in shoehorn so your foot slides into place without bending down or touching your shoes. Then the heel pillow technology keeps your foot comfy and secure. Hands-free Skechers slip-ins.
I've spent my career working in tech, and today I run my own software company. I'm excited about the future of American innovation, especially with artificial intelligence, where the U.S. currently leads the world. American researchers are making exciting new discoveries, and U.S. companies are investing billions in AI solutions that will strengthen small businesses. But foreign competitors like China want to surpass America in AI. Our leaders need to protect America's competitive edge.
One in 5 children worldwide are faced with the reality of living without food. No family dinners, no special treats, not enough energy to play. All around the world, hunger is affecting children's physical and mental health. Toddlers are suffering from acute malnutrition, which stunts their growth. Kids are forced to drop out of school so they can help support their families. Conflict, inflation, and climate have ignited the worst famine in our lifetime. And we are fed up. Fed up that hunger devours dreams. Fed up that hunger destroys joy. Fed up with the fact that hunger eats childhood. Help us feed the futures of children all over the world by visiting givetosave.org. For as little as $10 a month, you can join Save the Children as we support children and families in desperate need of our help. Now is the time to get fed up and give back. When you join the cause, your $10 monthly donation can help communities in need of life-saving treatments and nutrients, prevent children from dropping out of school. Support our work with communities and governments to help children go from short-term surviving to long-term thriving. And now, thanks to special government grants, every dollar you give can multiply up to 10 times the impact. That means more food, water, medicine, and help for kids around the world. You'll also receive a free tote bag to share your support for children in need. Having your childhood eaten away by hunger is unimaginable. Get fed up. Call us now or visit givetosave.org today.
The best things in life come in twos. 2 scoops of ice cream, 2 thumbs up. And now, buy any phone when you switch to Consumer Cellular and get 2 months of service free. That's right, 2 months free. All with fast, reliable, nationwide coverage. Make the switch today.
I have a structured settlement and I call J.G. Wentworth 877 cash now.
I have an annuity, but I need cash now.
Call J.G. Wentworth 877 cash now.
It's your money. Use it when you need it.
Call J.G. Wentworth 877.
Call 877 cash now to get a $100 gift card for a free quote.
Let's focus on something that's gotten a lot of attention. I mean, you know, this cat ladies comment. You talked about Democrat Party dominated by childish cat ladies. Put that aside. You also made a policy proposal, yes, which was why Tucker Carlson had you on for that interview. And you said you advocated giving extra votes to people with children, which seems a little...
Well, John, it's not a policy proposal. It's a thought experiment, right?
We're back with Chris, Eddie, and Claire. I mean, Chris, this is parsing. This is disrespectful. This is dishonest. I mean, this guy did a round of interviews to clean up his disastrous rollout, and I think he dug in and made it worse. Women in Ohio, in large numbers, and a lot of voters who weren't women, rejected that state's effort to make it easier to ban abortion. Just talk to me about women in Ohio and whether they are, to the degree we're talking about Ohio, as possible, gettable for a Harris-Walz ticket.
Abortion is the key issue, and twice last year, Ohio did turn out, as you said, in very large numbers to enshrine a right to abortion into the state constitution, and they had to overcome a lot of kind of dastardly deeds by Republicans to do it. That's I think, one of the things that frightens voters in Ohio about J.D. Vance. Just a few months ago, he was still saying he's dead set opposed to any form of abortion, no exceptions. Then he gets on the ticket and he's in favor of the abortion pill. The problem with everything you hear from him is you don't know what he actually believes. So he'll say now, I favor the use of the abortion pill. I'm with Donald Trump on this. But if he gets in, does he immediately embrace the Project 2025 plan to outlaw abortion everywhere? It's a frightening thing. And if the Democrats can impress that upon the voters of Ohio, they've shown that's a key issue, a single subject issue that drives people to the polls.
You know, Eddie, I think the voters have experienced and suffered from someone who doesn't believe in anything but will believe and champion the most heinous things in our politics. That was Donald Trump's model, and J.D. Vance seems intent on emulating it. Pete Buttigieg had a real takedown on J.D. Vance's anti-family policies. Let me show that to you.
I don't know which part of that is worse. The lie that he just told when he says he never criticized people for not having kids, because, of course, he very much did, including Kamala Harris and me and a lot of other people, millions of Americans. But let's remember also that last time I checked, he doesn't even think I should legally be able to have a family. Now, if he really got his way in his anti-marriage equality views, I don't know if that means that he would want me and my husband to be forcibly divorced and separated from our children, or if he'd be satisfied just to have us lose legal protections like the ability to do our taxes together or visit them in a hospital. I don't know exactly what his vision of us not having a family looks like, but I know that it's not pro-family for me.
There are millions and millions and millions and millions of step-parents and same-sex couples with kids that J.D. Vance didn't just insult, he galvanized for the other side. This is a walking, talking political debacle.
Yeah, a disaster every time he opens his mouth. And you know, what's interesting is the nature of Secretary Buttigieg's response, right? He emphasized the mean-spirited nature of it, and then he came behind it with a kind of libertarian response. Mind your own damn business. Get out of my face, right? So it's this kind of interesting combination. I'm just really interested in Ohio for a number of reasons, not only because of what women's response to Dobbs and the effort to overturn abortions across the board, but I'm also interested in what will Nicolle, what will the excitement around the Harris-Walz campaign do with young voters? How will it show up with young voters around those college campuses? What will happen if Columbus, Cincinnati, Cleveland, Toledo, Akron show up in extraordinary numbers? Tim Ryan lost because those numbers weren't what they should have been. So what happens down ballot as well as at the presidential level if cities in Ohio turn out in historic numbers and young people turn out in historic numbers and women turn out in historic numbers? Ohio very well may be in play.
Yeah, Claire, I refuse to count it out because I think the issue of abortion and the issue of IVF, I mean, I think what Wallace has broadened the conversation to include is the actual consequences of a Trump-Vance administration, and that would be to jeopardize IVF in America.
Yeah, I mean, the irony of him calling Kamala Harris a chameleon when this guy has gone from saying Trump is the worst thing that ever happened to America is, gee, isn't Trump wonderful? And his other positions that he changed overnight. And I don't know how you change your position around abortion access overnight. I don't know how that even computes in someone. But keep in mind, just a few months ago, Nicolle, I'm not talking about 10 years ago. I'm not talking about even an interview with Tucker Carlson a year ago. Just a few months ago, he voted against protecting contraception and IVF for American women. Just a few months ago. So he can say everything he wants to say, but we know what he believes, and that is that women should have the government telling them when, how, and if they should have children.
You know, Chris, it strikes me listening to Eddie and Claire that the biggest problem with J.D. Vance is that he can't land any of the attacks Trump needs him to land. He can't call Harris a chameleon because he described Donald Trump in more harsh and brutal terms than anyone I've ever had on this show. He called him America's Hitler. Cultural heroin. He can't attack anyone for changing their positions on anything because he changed his view on the most fundamental, basic thing in American political and civic life.
Right. You just can't, you cannot tie him down. And that is what's frightening is the other candidates we're talking about on the Democratic side have a lifetime of positions. They are who they always were. And with J.D. Vance, you don't have that. I'm telling you, just from 2016 to now, the number of gyrations Ohio saw, it's hard to understand. That's why I said earlier, he really shouldn't have been elected. He doesn't fit with what Ohio thinks. I'm glad to hear that others think Ohio could be in play. I think it's, in addition to getting all the cities out, you're also going to need the Trump vote to not be as rabid to show up, which you already are getting a sense. I get a lot of feedback from our readers, and it's kind of hollow, the messages I get about Trump now. It's not the same fervor. It's almost like they thought they were going to win, and now they're pretty sure they're going to lose, and they don't know what to make of it. And so they might stay home. They may not have the enthusiasm that the other side has.
Yeah, you realize in the last 3 weeks that electability was sort of all that he had. He didn't have a record.
Your air ducts aren't clean until they're Stanley Steamer Clean.
Stanley Steamer gets your home cleaner.
Old Spice Gentleman Super Hydration Body Wash. Vanilla and shea. 24/7 moisturization with vitamin B3.
Are you using all the Old Spice?
Oops.
You've got your Sunday obsession, and we got you. Now with Verizon, get NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube TV on us and get every out-of-market Sunday game. Plus $800 off Samsung Galaxy Z Fold 6. Only on Verizon.
See you Sunday.
Hi, I'm Jay Jackson. For almost 20 years, Abacus Life has been purchasing life insurance policies from seniors. And in just seconds, you can use the free calculator at abacuspays.com to learn what your policy might be worth.
For many of my clients, selling their life insurance to Abacus was right for them and their estate plan.
Don't sell or lapse your policy without going to abacuspays.com first. There are no fees and no obligations. Get the real value from your life insurance when you need it with Abacus.
Borderie ships the only fully arranged cheese and charcuterie boards nationwide, so you can send the perfect gift for every occasion. The perfect gift to send for birthdays, the perfect gift to say thank you, the perfect gift to bring to a party. Featuring chef-selected ingredients from around the world, Borderie boards are handmade, fresh daily, and shipped to your door overnight. With themed boards for every holiday and occasion, Borderie is guaranteed to impress, whether you're gifting or hosting. Send a board to someone you love today at Borderie.com.
We need a small business loan fast.
I got this.
Loan cannon!
There's a better way to get a fast small business loan. Go to OnDeck.com, and if approved, get your funds as soon as the same day. Your loan is on deck.
We need a miracle.
Miracle every Thursday starting at 2:45.
I love you.
I know.
Find childcare that fits your schedule at care.com.
What if your body didn't have to hurt after being active? Introducing Stogo, the only apparel with adjustable medical-grade support designed to help you overcome injuries, minimize pain, and regain the confidence to get back out there. Stoko's supportive apparel is engineered with 90 feet of high-strength cables that reinforce the body and control dials that allow you to adjust the support. Stoko is trusted by professionals, world-class athletes, and weekend warriors who all want one thing: more activity and less pain. Learn more at Stoko.com.
MSNBC Live Democracy 2024, Saturday, September 7th in Brooklyn, New York. Join your favorite MSNBC hosts at our premier live audience event to break down all that's at stake in this historic election. Visit msnbc.com/democracy 2024 to buy your tickets today.
I coached football for enough years. When somebody draws up a playbook, they plan on using it. And when they do, they'll restrict our freedoms. When they do, they'll do what they've done. They'll rig the economy so that the middle class gets nothing and the rich get richer. If this guy gets an opportunity again, he won't only pick up where he left off, it will be much worse than it was last time.
Hi again, everyone. It's 5 o'clock in the East. No matter how many times Donald Trump tries to distance himself from it, Project 2025 and its radical agenda of overhauling the federal government and taking away freedoms are inextricably linked to the ex-president and his 2024 campaign. That link shown to be even stronger in brand new extraordinary reporting by ProPublica, which shines a light on behind-the-scenes training that the group is working on for future political appointees in a Trump administration. ProPublica obtained never-before-published training videos for Project 2025's Presidential Administration Academy. 23 videos in all. They total more than 14 hours of content. From that reporting, quote, the Project 2025 videos coach future appointees on everything from the